Greetings, ladies and gentlemen! Hello everyone! Welcome to my final word after my full playthrough of Thief 4. Oh yes, if you are watching this, most likely you have been following me for 67 episodes already. Whoa! Thank you a lot! Thank you for staying tuned in. It's a separate episode, but I'm absolutely fresh from finishing the game, since I'm recording all that consecutively. So I'm ready to share my impressions glancing back at the game right now. Well, I really didn't think the titles would go under a separate video, but still, let me pass a few comments on that game. Gonna say, this playthrough turned out a little bit retrospective because I spent a lot of time pointing out references to previous Thief games, which aren't specified in the game itself. I mean, nobody says that, hey, this is the reference exactly to Thief 2, Thief 3, or any other Thief game. So, and the pretext is kind of really trivial. I mean, the protagonist lost his memory, and that's the reason. But okay, standard does not mean bad, right? I never meant that. And frankly, there are a lot of references in this game. There's just a dead lot of them. So don't believe those who say Thief 4 lacks actual Thief series heritage, and it's still, all in all, the same universe, which is great. While playing, I just remembered the Keepers, the Shalebridge Cradle, the Lost City, and a ton of minor elements, which are just too many to remember and mention right now. Maybe I will make a sufficient list of them all. Well, I played the Thief series games countless times, so I remember a lot. It's one of my favorite series, in all honesty. I like Thief 4 a lot too. This game was just great. In my opinion, of course, it is a different game, all the way different than the previous ones, but a huge progress it is to the whole series. In my opinion, there's a lot more talking, a lot better graphics. Oh, well, even the city was, theoretically, it was larger. But yeah, the very reason for me saying theoretically, because in my mood is telling me now that I'm supposed to be at the same time impartial and weigh up all the assets and drawbacks of this game. About which, most of the ratings gave this game like 70 out of 100 points, or 70% according to the base rating. Well, that's on the average. Some gave even less, some gave even more. Let me try figuring out why. Well, emotionally, I'm left with excitement right now. I'm almost jumping in happiness that I had this game, but really I want just to switch that master difficulty right now, right the very moment, and start the entire game once again. But rationally, I have a really dubious opinion right now. Everything in this game seems progressive and beautifully done, but needs a little shaving or certain polishing, if I may say so. Maybe, by the moment I'm saying this, the Eidos, Montreal and Square Enix have already fixed most of the issues and glitches. Well, they're updating the game twice a week or so. Well, currently at least. But I can't help a certain feeling of emptiness right now. Alongside with all the marvel, Thief 4 felt a little glitchy. Well, I remember almost jumping in excitement when I downloaded graphical amplification mode for Thief 3, which was awesome. And the truth is, the fourth game has been even better. I expected this of a contemporary game on Unreal Engine, but still, this animation of stealing stuff, opening the crates and tablets. I mean, hey, interacting with the environment made me feel much more involved. Well, Aaron said it was not about taking sides, but hell, it was! A lot of sides, a lot of everything just to enjoy looking at. That view on the coast from the docks. Well, character design, undeniably beautiful. Nice faces, nice costumes, a lot of details on every last one of them. I'm going to remember every participant of this story. They all had their distinct features, their distinct personalities. I mean, hey, I remember the face of Thief Taker General, the Queen of Beggars, Basso, Vittori, Orion, all of them. Just because. Thanks to all that rich graphics in the game. Well, about the polishing and shaving though. Get ready for that, ladies and gentlemen. Only truth about it. Moving walls, like in Heartbroken Mission. And I'm not talking about those I moved because of the scripting. I'm talking about the wall that shaked before me at the beginning of the mission. Yeah, frozen NPCs with their arms spread out. Which were not even NPCs, since I could safely pass through them. They were just graphical glitches. And sorry. Sorry for that burst of laughing out there. I just remembered how I threw the guard in between the doorway and slammed the door shut, and the guard just stuck inside the door. The door just split the body into two halves, but the body could not split itself, so it stuck in the door. That just looked hilarious. That did look hilarious, didn't it? Oh god, well, to some extent, those glitches, I mean, they kind of returned me back in that day of playing previous games, when I just threw bodies down the staircases or drowned them in the water, and that was just awesome because it was just so funny to look at it. Well, people say a lot worse of Thief 4. They say the game occasionally could even crash, and the characters could start whirling and twirling around themselves, but luckily that didn't happen with me. So, yeah, I was really about to say the game felt almost smooth, but nay. Well, after finishing the game, I just decided to switch it back as I promised. I started the master difficulty, and I guess I bet 2 or 3 chapters already. So, must admit, I have collected a nice selection of various glitches, graphics, sound, structures, and just the gameplay on the whole. Definitely I'm going to publish them for you to see, guys. It's just literally a laughing stock. Honestly, for some reason, I wish I came across all of them during my actual playthrough, because that would be just a lot of fun. We would laugh a lot, but hey, I will post them anyways. In my opinion, well, taking into consideration all of that, still, it's not the glitches that aroused this wave of criticism, but something I just called the patchwork. I mean, I know that any game is based upon that. Random pieces of cutscenes and sounds are spread out throughout the entire code of the game, so it does seem a little bit like patchwork, but sometimes it is evident, and sometimes you cannot notice it, and everything feels like a smooth line. Well, sometimes it does look stylish, I mean, if you see the patches, but sometimes it does not. Gaming isn't Taylor's work, so it doesn't suit in this case. It isn't seen that much in graphics here in Thief 4, but in the sounds, it really does. It's in the plain sight. Some sentences were just interrupted by the coding, like the mission end screen or bad timing of the following line, so I could not even listen to some kind of sentence to the very end, because the end was just cut. That was really inappropriate, I should say. Moira Asylum was just the brightest example of that. Those random roaring sounds had no background, honestly. Do you think they had the background? They were just randomly placed scary sounds. And I couldn't help noticing that. That wasn't scary. And for God's sake, why roaring? Why roaring? What is that could roar in this place? Ghosts, undead guys, but what could roar? That's impossible. Why roaring? Probably just because it's a typical scary sound with no actual pretext. Maybe, I'm not sure. That seemed, in fact, a little bit artificial. Well, let's just assume that. Banging and scratching at the doors, creaking of the beds and hinges might do a lot better in building suspense. Because these sounds would have actual pretext. What if there are ghosts? What if still there are patients that are sleeping and just about to come out? That would be a lot scarier. Well, the exception may be made only in case of the Night Warden himself, because that might count as a reference to the roaring sound from the 3 Shalebridge Cradle. Well, that sound effect got into action when Garret traveled into the Cradle's past. Well, just because that might be a reference, but all the other sounds, well, they seemed again placed in the patchwork. Well, the sounds in general could use some work. I almost remember I can learn by heart every guard's line, including long speeches. I'm not sure. Well, let me just recall one of them. Have you seen the House of Blossoms under the Raker's Ditch? Prettiest girls on the island. Pop a mist to make you forget your troubles. The only thing under the Raker's Ditch is the bones of jackals like you. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that indeed. I'm not sure why that embedded in my memory. I don't know. The smaller lines, I almost remember all of them. Wish there was a sloop stall nearby. I think a tooth is coming loose. Well, I think a little bit more of development could be used in the lines. I wish there were more lines for Guardians, just to make it a little bit different, make it a little bit various. But okay, maybe I'm a little bit too cantankerous and fault-finding. Really, I didn't want to imply that. All that's made was missing in the previous games, and as I have already said, characters rarely spoke, and they did speak only in case of special dialogues, which were unique in the game. They didn't speak all the way together, randomly. Overall, it is still a great addition the 4 made for the entire universe. Well, the gameplay. Let me just, say something about the gameplay, which seems a little shaky too. Well, which you couldn't notice. Well, but you could notice it if you really watched the full playthrough. Garret would sometimes mess things up a lot, like closing doors in front of the guards' faces instead of taking them down, or turning lights off. It would just sometimes lean at the tables or cabinets instead of opening them, or bending over the railing or the roof edges, while actually running from pursuit, which was eating up a lot of time, and Garret would eventually be beaten and caught by the Guardians. That was really depressing, just because of the scripting, just because of the bad aligning of the controls, because everything I've just mentioned is done with only one button. that is ridiculous, because those elements of scripting sometimes would come into conflict and the game would not understand whether you want to close the door, to take the guardian down, or to switch the light off. And the game chose something of all that, and that thing might not necessarily be the one you actually wanted to do. Again, I know what it sounds like, but on the bright side, these are all minor issues and you can easily get accustomed to them. If paid no attention to, those might allow a patient player to enjoy the game entirely. Personally, I did not regret this game. I don't regret playing it on at any moment. And finally, the plot line. Well, I'm no hypocritical. I did enjoy the game, the atmosphere, the environment, but the plot was just average, let's be honest, and I did not feel wanting. Well, Orion's just a fool. Let me just break it straightforward for you. He is just a fool. I don't really want to punish him. While playing Thief 1, 2 and 3, I really felt involved. I wanted to bring those villains to my justice because they were literally dangerous, not only at the moment, but for the entire space and time. Let me analyze all that. Well, all this just because father issues. Orion just got offended. He got offended by the family, by the father, the daddy issues. Well, that topic becomes a lot popular nowadays, which I cannot even understand why. He didn't pursue any idea other than just the feeling of offense. Well, if Eren turned all the people around him into abominations, he would repent. He would regret his actions, and no villain before him would. Let me just analyze that a little bit. Constantine would only be happy if the city got stuffed with vile, savage animals that would just maim and tear apart every human being in the city. Because he was himself half animalistic, demonic being that would only be happy because of that. And he would enjoy life without human beings in the city. So he was supposed to be stopped because he was crazy. I mean, that was crazy for the whole people in the city. Orion, he would repent. He would soon join the crusade against the abominations if that got out of control. But okay, the following villain was Garret, the leader of mechanists. Well, maybe he was insane. Maybe he was just a mere victim of mockery in his childhood. But his fanaticism allowed him to achieve a lot. It allowed him to achieve great industrial progress. A lot of machines, a lot of mechanisms he produced. I mean, hey, he meant all that just again to destroy the whole entirety of organic life in the city, just to leave the city the realm of machines. But again, he was a dangerous sociopath, and he was supposed to be stopped because he would never ever regret his actions. Orion would. And finally, Gamal, the antagonist of the third game in the series, well, she was just an evil hag. Well, she didn't pursue any idea like Constantine or Garret, but she was just striving crazily for power. She was a crazed hag that would kill and maim everyone standing in her way. Because she wanted power, she wanted to be all-powerful, and she didn't want anyone to mess up with this. She wanted to be the only one. So, isn't that the reason to stop her? Isn't that the reason to, I don't know, put all your effort and feeling into stopping her? But Orion, hey, I mean, why? Maybe Orion is antagonist in this game, but he is not even a villain. He's just misguided. and I totally understand that. I even pity him to a certain extent. He became a victim of his own foolishness, and Eren, or let us say, the Primal itself, killed him because he was that foolish. So, just, I mean, to emphasize the psychological issues, if any, in this game, I'd rather dwell a little bit more upon the Northcrest's family. But hey, that might in its turn just draw attention away from the protagonist of the game. So, in my opinion, this pattern just doesn't suit the thief's concept. Maybe it would just be casual, but Baron would have made a lot better villain, I think. Well, separate from the universe and Garret's personality, though, the storyline was just cool. It was kind of really psychological, a little bit more than any previous story. It made you think about the psychology, about the philosophy, about the values, which I like in games. They are becoming kind of much more thoughtful, and they give a lot more food for thought than the previous games. I mean, the games of back in the day when you were just supposed to run around the level, steal stuff, run around the level and shoot stuff, run around the level and build stuff, and everything like that, with no actual pretext, well, with no reason. Now you have that reason. So thank you a lot, Eidos, Montreal, and Square Enix and Nixxes too. Thank you all for bringing in those elements into the plot. Well, so the conclusion is, it looks like it's those minor drawbacks in their multitude that resulted in relatively low Metascore rating for this game, and other ratings too. Thief's idea was a lot more than that. A dead lot more. Gosh, it was the only stealth game I knew in my childhood. It was almost 100% original, so nevertheless, it was just the event for me personally. There was just a huge event, so I'd say the game was awesome anyways, because I'm a fan of this game. You may have a different opinion, but I'm a huge fan, so I just cannot help feeling that excited right now. And as a fan, I just couldn't but see all the traces of the thief's spirit around it. And I do miss them now. Now that the game has ended, I miss them a lot. And I know the developers tried to make the game replayable, but again, another setback. I don't feel like exploring the city furthermore. Maybe there's a lot of loot I haven't yet found, but well, the city itself, it didn't change. It did not. It was changing throughout the entire Thief 3 game. You would see different characters added in the same locations. First it was just the civilians and guardians, then the Hemorrhoids joined in, then the bandit joined in, occasionally even fighting with guardians before your eyes. That was lively. And then pagans joined in, and then some kind of keeper enforcers went out just to kill you, and then they would fight with civilians too. Then after all that, the enforcers disappeared, but the Hemorrhoids started to make fights in the streets with pagans. Well, and this is all Garret could like literally participate in. You could just walk around the city watching that. You could help either side. You could just wait for all of them to kill each other and collect the loot left afterwards. And the guardians were actually respawned all the way. You needn't even to get out of the location and get back. They would respawn anyways, even if you just move to another side of the location. Well, and in this game, there is just like same guardians all the time. They never quarreled, they never fought each other. I remember pagans and hammers, they would just wage skirmishes in the streets. Even in Thief 2, there was a nice brawl around the Lady von Vernon's name, which ended up in arrow shooting. Here, nothing of the kind. I would really appreciate the Baron's Guards, City Watch, and the Graven Mob fighting each other in the streets before my eyes, but nothing of that happened. I was only allowed to see the result of their fights, like burning houses, corpses lying in the streets, but I never ever saw the actual... I've never seen an actual fight. Well, which doesn't feel lively at all. I would prefer a little bit more liveliness in the city. But all in all, if any DLCs come, I will be waiting patiently, and I will definitely buy those, and I will definitely play those, and I will most certainly post them over here on my channel for you guys to see, for you guys to watch my first impressions and all like that, because I feel that these are the most precious in the game. The first impressions are the most precious. And you guys may count on at least 2 more videos on this awesome game here on ANZ. Those will be my glitches collection and full references list. As soon as I finish playing the game on master difficulty and I collect the whole lot of them, I will definitely post them all for you to see, to enjoy, and to make fun of. So I'm always glad to give you something interesting, something new, something curious, and something entertaining. And of course, stay tuned in for a lot more stuff. Watch other playthroughs, and be sure I'll give you all that much. Be sure I will give a proper approach to any game I play, which I always do. It's just my nature. Well, my nature is to feel inside there, to share emotions, share motives with the characters of the game. So, if you'd like to suggest a game to be commented, just contact me. If you want some cooperative game, again, contact me here or on Twitter or on Facebook. I am Zauberhaft. If you just would like to express your constructive criticism and say what you didn't like around my playthrough, again, just contact me. Post a comment there down below, or contact me on Facebook or on Twitter. All the links are posted there down below. Every video on my channel. I'm always glad to receive your feedback. I'm always glad to see you here. And of course, feel free to give a like or a comment, or even to subscribe if you like what I'm doing here. If you like my stuff, I'll make sure you'll see something new and undeniably entertaining. Hey, yes, that's for sure. But for now, thank you all for all your attention. Thanks for staying tuned in, staying with me. I'm always glad to see you all. Delighted to read your comments and all. Just giving a response to them as soon as I can. It was Thief 4 with me, Zauberhaft, on ANZ, the entire alphabet of gaming. See you all in the following playthroughs. Peace and cheers, everyone! And have fun playing games. But for now, Zauberhaft signing out.